Let's bring our guy in, Brad Powers, being patient in the green room. Brad, what is that, my man? How'd the weekend treat you?
It was okay. Would have liked a few more winners, obviously, but it's another week. The good thing about it right now is it's only September. Usually, people remember November more than September.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I've said before, when you're betting on football or any sport, college football, you don't want to be getting all your bets in on Saturday morning. NFL, you don't want to be getting all your bets in on Sunday morning. Sometimes you want to jump on these lines early. So, Brad's going to be with us every Monday to help us jump on some lines that he thinks we're going to be able to get some early value on. So, we're going to get into three in a minute, but let's discuss a couple of hot topics here. First, Brad, starting off with Alabama football, their death grip as a college football powerhouse starting to loosen here a little bit. So, your thoughts on Alabama, both short term and long term? They still find themselves in the top 10 on the national championship odds board, 25-1. So, do you think that they should be removed from that discussion altogether at this point?
No, I mean, when you look down the rest of their schedule, I mean, they're arguably going to be favored in all, 10 of their remaining regular season games. So, no, it's not automatically that let's throw them in the garbage. Although I will say this is not overreaction saying, the dynasty might be coming to an end. If you paid attention to Alabama the last couple of years, they've had 4 or 5 games each season where it's come down to the final possession. And more often than not, Bryce Young bailed them out of those games. The number 1 overall pick in the draft. Well, guess what? Bryce Young isn't walking through that door, and Jalen Milroe is just not the passer that Bryce Young or the guy that can maneuver in the pocket as much as Bryce Young is. So what you've seen over a course of several games and several losses over Alabama the last 2+ seasons, sloppy play, penalties, turnovers at inopportune time. You saw the penalty that basically ended the game, the offsides penalty that allowed Texas to get a first down. This is stuff that didn't just happen on Saturday night. This is stuff that's been happening last several years. And that was something with the reason why Alabama is the best dynasty and Nick Saban's the greatest coach of all time is you didn't see that for 10+ years. And they were not only the most talented team, but they also were buttoned up as much as anybody. Now that they're not buttoned up, I mean, losses I think they're going to lose at least another game or two.
Yeah, Nick Saban on the wrong side of 70. They're an unremarkable 5-3 in their last 8 regular season games. So who knows? Maybe they're as a college football powerhouse in the Nick Saban era might be coming to a bit of an end here. One last thing before we get into the picks. A quick look at the Heisman odds board. Of course, we know that Caleb Williams still the favorite, right around plus 400, depending on what sports book you're using. Then we see a bit of a significant drop-off, I guess you could say. Anyone else on that odds board catch your eye now that we're a couple games into the season?
Yeah, well, the one thing that I did happen to get somewhat right so far, Jordan Travis, I gave out on the preview show, was my favorite Heisman bet. His odds have been basically cut in half. And there's not a lot of marquee games that are going to grab the national attention this week. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders has risen up farther than anybody. Yeah. Quinn Ewers just had a great big performance. I think the Heisman talk really shifts towards next weekend. There's a couple of very high-profile games. Jordan Travis and Florida State at Clemson. If Travis has a big game, Florida State goes on the road and beats Clemson, I think Jordan Travis becomes the favorite even over the defending Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams. So big opportunity again for him. And then the other big game next week will be Ohio State and Notre Dame, where Sam Hartman, if he has a big game against the Buckeyes and somehow Notre Dame upsets Ohio State, Sam Hartman will move into that top 2, top 3 position as far as the Heisman goes.
Yeah, maybe something people might want to jump on right now as opposed to waiting. So speaking of bets to consider jumping on right now, there's 3 that have caught your eye that you like to discuss here in the program. So let's get right into it. Let's start things off. Syracuse and Purdue. We have a 2.5-point spread. Who are you looking at here?
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points here with Syracuse, and I also like the over in this game. And let's just talk Syracuse, generally speaking. I don't think the market has this team priced accordingly. Fundamental changes as far as coordinators, 2 different coordinators. Offensive coordinators going very high-paced. They have a very experienced defensive coordinator that's been around for a half a century in Rocky Long, and defense is playing well. Where I don't think they're priced accordingly is look at the first half of these their two games so far. I know they played a couple of tomato cans, but I mean, a combined score of 82-7, and they basically have taken their foot completely off the gas pedal in the second half. They've scored a goose egg so far in the fourth quarter of their two games so far. So if they were to play a complete full 60-minute game, I'm wondering how good this Syracuse team is going to be. I think they'll have to play a 60-minute game here on the road against Purdue. But if that's the case, anything under 3, I'm a big buyer on Syracuse. And I'm also a big buyer on the over in that game as well.
The orange and the over. Okay, next up we have San Jose State and Toledo. You like a side on the total. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to go over the total. Generally speaking, what we have here, a couple of mobile quarterbacks, dynamic pass and run quarterbacks, Daquan Finn at Toledo, and then obviously Chevin Cadero at San Jose State. I think some of the scoring for San Jose State's offense has been suppressed because they played USC's defense. I know it's USC's defense, but still it's a Power 5 defense. Oregon State's got a legitimate defense. You saw what they could do when they stepped down in class last week. Now, Toledo's a little bit better defensively than Cal Poly, but still, I expect San Jose State's offense to have success and vice versa. We saw Toledo go up and down the field against an Illinois defense, and then last week against, again, lesser competition, it was a no-brainer. They put up a 70 spot. So I think it's a back-and-forth game. The both teams I could see getting into the 30s here.
Okay, let's bring things home here. Northwestern Duke, a 19.5-point spread. Who are you betting on in this one?
So I think there's two narratives in play that are giving us some value on the underdog here, Northwestern plus 19.5. First narrative is Northwestern, the scandal that broke over the summer. Nobody wants to bet Northwestern, even myself, going under their win total and whatnot. And then on top of it, you saw a standalone game on a Sunday afternoon, week 1, and they get beat by Rutgers 24-7. Don't look good in that game. I'm here to tell you, Rutgers might be better than expected. If you don't believe me, Rutgers right now a 7-point home favorite over Virginia Tech. They were only laying 5 against Northwestern at home. So that loss that Northwestern had, maybe not as bad as what we originally thought. Last week, the market threw Northwestern in the trash. At some point, they were actually a home underdog to UTEP. Northwestern goes out and crushes UTEP. They did benefit from some turnovers, but still the market way off there. And then the second mispricing is on Duke. Standalone game. Again, for Duke, what they do, they upset Clemson. Nobody expected that, but it was a misleading final. I'm not saying Duke wasn't the right side in the game, but the fact that they won it so convincingly was a very misleading final. Clemson doesn't punt in the second half, has it inside the 10-yard line not once but twice, and somehow comes away with 0 points. I'm not sure that Duke is as good as what the market's treating them right now. We got a low total, too. Are you kidding me? One of the lower totals on the board. I'm almost getting 3 touchdowns. Give me the Wildcats.
Okay, 3 to jump on right now, according to our guy, Brad Powers. Now, Brad, I got a question for you, unrelated to, well, it's kind of related to betting. Now, you talked about how you like to bet the board. You get a ton of action in every Saturday. How does Brad Powers watch college football? What type of setup you got there at home?
I almost should turn the computer. I could look up at it right now, but I got 5 TVs and I got like 5 other monitors. So it's pretty wild. I stand for most of it watching because I'm constantly changing the volume on the different TVs to get, what actually is happening, at least from the commentators. I don't like commentators, but still, if there's an injury, I want to know what's going on. And then I'll run to my desk and if I think there's an injury and I'm trying to bet. So it's kind of frantic. It's fun. My girlfriend thinks I'm nuts, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes, indeed. That is the way to watch football in the year 2023. Okay, Brad, that does it for today. We thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you on Thursday and we'll take a look at some of the bigger games and week 3 college football action.
All right. Thanks for having me as always.